This is TWiT.
I guess as we're talking about Bitcoin, we should mention, and maybe you can explain, that Elon Musk's Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. What? Why? And they say they're going to let you pay for your next Tesla in Bitcoin, which makes me want to find my wallet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had to cash in on what happened to the market. The fact that they said that they were going to accept Bitcoin, it kicked up Bitcoin from running in the 36 to 47,000 range to the 46 to 47,000 range.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was a major kick up. So them buying all that Bitcoin already earned them quite a bit of money. But also the fact
So wait a minute. Did they time it so they bought the Bitcoin then made the announcement?
Well, I mean, I think they understood that once they started doing these block purchases of Bitcoin, the market was going to explode.
It was an SEC filing, Leo. They had to announce that they did it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're a publicly held company. You can't spend $1.5 billion on anything.
Right, because their cash on hand is, I can't remember what it was. Let's call it $10 million. So whatever, $10 billion. So whatever it was, that was a meaningful amount of their cash on hand. They had to report that.
Yeah. He also, for reasons we don't fully understand, has been tweeting like crazy about your Dogecoin there.
He has. That, I think, is just him being a troll. A good troll. It's a fantastic
It's good for
troll.
you.
But I mean, he did the same thing when the kids were going after GameStop. We're going after the hedge fund managers. So I think this is the malicious side of Elon coming out and saying, sure, with a tweet, I can create
he just flexes
billions of dollars of value in a meme currency.
Because that's what Dogecoin is, right? It was a joke.
Oh yeah.
Although is the math for it legit? I mean, it's a legit blockchain, right?
It is actually it's a far more legit blockchain than some of the altcoins that are currently running. But when it was created because a bunch of people said, look, it's too hard to mine Bitcoin. This was 5 years ago,
right?
So 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You couldn't make anything on it unless you had a specialized rig. So it was created for and by people like me who wanted to do something fun. We used it on TWiT to teach people how the blockchain worked.
Yeah.
And the difference was, whereas there was a super limited number of Bitcoin, there was an almost infinite number of Dogecoin that you could mine. And we never expected it to be worth anything. It was purely bragging rights. Brian and I were running the miners on our systems just so we could compete with each other of who had more Dogecoin. And now, I mean, I think Brian's stash, he just cashed it in and made like $20,000.
Holy cow. Yes, when Steve Gibson did his Security Now on Bitcoin, which was something like episode 287. I mean, it was, probably episode 287. He explained how cryptocurrency worked, and he, just as for fun, had set up a Bitcoin miner, and the next morning it plopped out 50 Bitcoin. This is back when, no one was doing it, right? So the whole idea of these currencies is it gets harder and harder to mine until you mine a maximum amount, and then you've got all the coin you're going to create, so that if you keep creating it, it's inflationary. So you want to have a static amount, but you don't want to dump it on the market all at once. So it's all, part of the theory Satoshi Nakamoto published in his original Bitcoin paper. So he was able to mine it very easily initially. It's now, of course, very costly to mine it. It takes a lot of, the math problems are harder and harder and harder. He erased the hard drive with the wallet on it. So he's at this point, he's going, that's $2.5 million.
There are actually a huge amount of Bitcoin that are no longer viable. They're dark. They're forever lost.
Yeah.
And remember, there's only a maximum of 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be mined, ever. Now, you can do fractions of that. Compare that to Dogecoin. Dogecoin has 100 billion Dogecoin.
And that's why Elon Musk, Snoop Dogg, and Gene Simmons are tweeting about it.
Exactly. Why not? Why not?
Why not? The thing is, whenever there's a story, this is a story from CNBC of all people on Dogecoin, they show an image of the coin as if there is such a thing. There's no coin, but if there were, it would have the Doge on it. It would have that very cute little, what is that? Is that a corgi?
It's a Shiba Inu.
Oh, a Shiba Inu. Okay.
The reason that I know that is, and I know the exact timing, because it was February. It was as cold as it is right now. It was 2014. So Dogecoin had just come out, and I went to some sort of crypto party down on Wall Street. They had rented out a thing at the end of Wall Street, and people brought those dogs, and people at the end of the night, they all put a Shiba, whatever that dog's head is, the Doge head on the bull, the running bull behind Wall Street. And I reached out to some of those people that I met that night because it was like Dogecoin was all the rage. And like a lot of them had sold out and stuff. It was 50-50, I'd say, to the people I reached out to. They're like, yeah, I sold out of that a long time ago. And one guy was like, I sold out of that a month ago when it reached, a quarter of a penny or something. And it surged all the way to a quarter of a penny. And then half of them were like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do now, but maybe I'll cash out now.
It's almost 6 cents. It was its peak, and now it's back down to about a nickel.
Put it this way, Leo. When I was still at TWiT and I stopped mining, the entirety of all of my wallets together, which was 1 to 2 million range, was worth about $1.40. If I had actually had it and been able to cash it out at the top, it would have been worth somewhere in the vicinity of 140,000.
Holy moly! So, is this all just a pyramid scheme and a scam, or is this legit?
No, it's not legit.
I'm not talking about Dogecoin. I'm just cryptocurrency in general. I know if you say it's not the next big thing, you're going to get flamed like crazy by the Bitcoin bros. And there are people who've made a ton of money. I'm going to tell you somebody who's a Bitcoin billionaire in a second. But it's a fiat currency tied to nothing, right?
Okay, and if you say that, all of the Bitcoin stands are going to point out the fact that the dollar is a fiat currency.
It's a fiat currency tied to the full faith and credit of the United States government. Slightly different.
Precisely. It's slightly different. But here's what I always say. It's not a scam in the sense that you actually can make a lot of money. If you watch the market.
If you convert it into actual money, dollars, you can do something.
You actually can.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. It's a financial instrument. It's like investing in a junk bond.
Right.
Where you can get a lot of money and you can lose a lot of money.
Or a penny stock. Yeah,
It is great as a financial instrument. It is terrible as a currency. You don't want your currency to fluctuate that
That's
much.
a very good point. There's a lot of problems with, at least with Bitcoin. Of course, subsequent cryptocurrencies have attempted to solve them. One is the speed of transactions as the blockchain gets bigger and bigger has really become slow. You could pay more to get the transaction to happen faster, to get the miners to process it faster. But that's problematic. And then the volatility of the actual value is very problematic, because if I buy a pizza for 50 Bitcoin and it turns out later that was worth $2.5 million, I'm going to be unhappy about that. So those are real issues with a currency. Not so much with, I see what you're saying, though, not so much with a financial instrument. That might well happen. If you had a share of that U.S. Steel stock on Brian's wall, that fluctuates. I actually had a very long discussion on Twig a couple of weeks ago, which we actually cut out of the shipping version because it really was fruitless, in which I made the point that a stock isn't so very different. And, people in their mind tie the value of a stock to the fundamentals of the company, but it isn't really tied to it.
No.
It's only tied to it because people say it's tied to it, right? You can't say, you can't, or maybe you can. Tell me, anybody who knows this, maybe Wesley, you know this, can I take those shares of, if they weren't canceled, of U.S. Steel and go to U.S. Steel and say, I want to cash this in?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Does anybody know?
Yeah, but Leo, okay, if you're going all the way, history hat on, if you're going all the way back to like the East India Company and stuff like that, when corporations were first formed, the idea is you had a claim on those future cash flows.
You're buying a share of the company, and so you share in the profit.
The thing that's divorced in modern stocks is that most companies don't pay dividends. And even the best ones, your Verizons or whatever, pay like 3% or 3.5%.
So you're not sharing in the success of the company,
right?
And a lot of historically tech stocks, it's changing a little bit now, but Google doesn't pay dividends. Apple for years didn't. Now they do.
But like the British East India Company, you would get a dividend of 30% of whatever their net was every year. right? So that's a meaneful.
Yeah,
like,
now that
share
means
of
you
the
really
company.
have a percentage of the company, and I somehow at some point the stocks got kind of separated from the meaning of that, and when it's first issued, the cash you pay for it ultimately goes to the company, but at that point it just floats along, depending on the whim of the market, somewhat divorced from the performance of the company. Right? I mean, there's nothing actually tying it to the performance of the company. There's dividends. That's about it. Anyway.
Right. And even in that case, I mean, because there's common stock and there's preferred stock. And common stock is what we used to think stocks were, where you're buying a share of the company, therefore you have a voice. That's a common stock. Preferred stock is you can get paid a dividend, but you've got no vote.
Yeah, look at Facebook. Doesn't matter how much stock they issue. Mark Zuckerberg will always have the lion's share and always have control of the company, period. They've been very smart that way. So anyway, that's the only point I'm making is a lot of what we do today in modern finance is fiat, is faith-based, is, I'm going to invest in this because I think it's going to go up. And so it's really silly to criticize Bitcoin for not being tied to anything when, frankly, a lot of stuff is not tied to anything either. I mean,
but the truth is that the environment right now is like casinos are closed. A lot of gambling establishments are closed. The interest rate is really, really low. And it's not expected to increase anytime soon. People are looking for ways to shuffle their money in places to try to get the strong ups that they would get with other riskier investments like bets. And so it's not surprising that a lot of people are putting stuff in things that we wouldn't in other times do. Have you heard of Rally? And Rally's you're able to issue your own coin and say, hey, I want to thank people who love me, so I'm going to issue
I'd like to
some
issue Rally, some
Wesley
Leo
coin.
Yeah, Wesley coin. Wow.
Have you heard of the hotness that is non-fungible tokens right now? And you can invest in, say, a digital video of an NBA highlight. And if it's the right one, they've been selling for $30,000 right now.
Well, it's like, remember the crypto kitties?
Well, it's the same. It's the same people. CryptoKitties started that, and then whoever is the company behind CryptoKitties, they have a partnership with the NBA. Non-fungible tokens and art on the blockchain and things like collectibles on the blockchain is absolutely exploding right now. But specifically, whatever the company behind CryptoKitties is, they have a partnership with the NBA that stuff has been exploding a lot recently. And all they do is you can own a digital video of an NBA highlight replay.
And then if it gets played, do you get money?
No, you essentially own it. You're the only one that owns that representation of the video.
Just like owning an imaginary cat.
Well, owning a baseball card.
Right. At least with a baseball card, you have a card. But no, you know what? There's a long history of this, isn't it? And
yes, but no. Like here, for example, take XRP, Ripple. It's one of the cryptocurrencies.
Yep.
When one of my hobbies during the pandemic has been to invest in some cryptocurrencies, and I took some of the money that I got.
Are you allowed to do that?
As long as it stays inside the cryptocurrency account, it's not real money.
As soon as it turned into lira or dollars or euro or whatever, then you'd have to tithe it. Do you tithe 100%?
Exactly. Everything. I don't have anything.
You're not allowed to own anything.
It doesn't belong to me the moment it becomes real money.
By the way, I would take it as tacit proof from the church that this stuff is worthless. This is literally worthless because priests can have as much as they want. Do whatever you want because it's worthless.
So I started with 200 that I turned from Doge into something that I could actually invest. Currently sitting in this account is 11,531. So I keep going back and forth. No, so I go back and forth between a cryptocurrency and then it's dollars, but it's not actually money yet.
Are you doing arbitrage?
No. It's all within a brokerage account, a Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency brokerage account. But XRP, when I bought it, was running at about 10 cents. And then it got under a SEC investigation for running a unregistered security. Now, that should have killed it. That should have killed any stock, any actual financial transaction tool.
Yeah.
It is now running at 60 cents. I mean, it's the market. I mean, it doesn't matter where you invest right now. As long as you hold on to it long enough, right now you're going to make money.
It's irrational exuberance.
Yeah.
And I would submit it is one of the many things really wrong with society today. There is something, but maybe I'm just, am I old-fashioned, Wesley, or does this feel to you like, I don't know, what does this seem like to you? You obviously are not playing in this domain.
Actually, I just sold my Dogecoin.
Son of a
when it got to 7.4 cents.
You got 7.4 cents for your Dogecoin?
Yeah, I actually sent a message to Father Robert saying, "Hey, I'm now in the game." So, yeah, I decided to sell. I bought it at, I think, 3.5 cents, and then I more than doubled the money that I put in.
Okay, I give up. All of you are crazy.
Can you imagine what happens, Wesley, in 10 years? Dogecoin is at $50,000. Which sounds stupid, except I would have said the exact same thing when you told me that that Bitcoin was at $50,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
that would mean that I think it would be like one of those countries where you have to bring like $70 million to buy a loaf of bread or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that
hyperinflation.
would skew the economy so far that it wouldn't even be recognizable.
Alex Lindsay brought me back from Zimbabwe a few years ago, I think 5 million Zimbabwe dollars.
Oh, that's nothing.
Which was nothing. You couldn't buy it was less than a nickel.
Did they release $1 trillion bill?
I shouldn't laugh because there's very real suffering and pain associated with that.
Oh, yes.
If that happened in the United States, all my retirement, everything that I'm planning to live on for the last, few decades of my life would be zip. And that would be devastating.
But in theory, Leo, that's the argument for Bitcoin specifically, is it being a store of value that is a hedge against inflation. And so the ultimate, as the Padre would probably tell you, the ultimate bull case for Bitcoin would be it replaces gold. If Bitcoin had a market cap equal to gold's market cap, then you'd have Bitcoin 1 million.
Right.
Yeah, but okay. This would probably behoove me at this point to say, if you do not take advice on any financial advice from this show ever.
Don't do it.
Ever, ever, ever.